Hey there, it's Michelle Caruana from Play Cafe Academy and Profitable Play. And I know you haven't heard from me on this channel in a while. We are closing on a new home literally any day. So if it looks like my office is packed up, I have moving boxes behind me if you can't see them. I think my chair is hiding them. My bookshelf is pretty much packed up. We're getting ready to leave. My lighting equipment is all packed up. My microphone stand is packed up, which is why I'm holding my microphone in this super awkward way. And it's why my lighting isn't optimal. So I apologize for that, but I wanted to make sure you could at least hear me crystal clear because I have a few things to say today. But besides the moving, we also just wrapped up our 2025 Playmaker Society live conference in Dallas, Texas. I got to meet 50 amazing indoor playground owners from around the world there. And it was so fun, but it's a lot of work. It takes up a lot of my time and energy. So, in an ideal world, I would, of course, still put out scheduled content every single week. But truth be told, I needed to really focus. I needed to really pour all of my time and energy into that, into my move, into my one-on-one clients, and into Playmaker Society, my group coaching program for indoor playground owners. Now, if you don't know about Play Cafe Academy or Playmaker Society, I will, of course, link it below. But like I said, I was literally in the middle of packing today and I had something to say because I recently started doing even more one-on-one consulting because my inbox has honestly been flooded with current indoor playground owners needing help, prospective indoor playground owners wanting me to look at their business plans, their cash flow projections, all of that good stuff. And I've been noticing a couple things, and I don't have a plan for this video. I made like a couple quick notes of just things that I made sure I want to make sure I say and get to. But honestly, I'm just coming here on the fly. I'm just going to have a heart to heart, especially with the people who are still in the daydreaming phase, still in the business planning phase, because there are some really big pitfalls that I can still help you avoid. Whereas I can't necessarily save someone who's already open from making these mistakes because they've already signed a lease, they've already taken out that loan. So again, if you are in the daydreaming planning phase, I want to talk to you specifically in this video. Now, if you're currently open, maybe you're looking to expand, this video could still help you. But again, I want to talk to the people who are still looking to open and are especially wondering if this is the right time or if they're ready. So something that I've been noticing, first of all, taking a step back, this industry is completely different than when I entered it in 2015. So we're in 2025, we're already halfway through, I can't even believe it. And there are more play spaces than ever. Play cafes are a booming, I don't want to say trend because the business has been around for quite a while, but opening indoor playgrounds is definitely on the rise. And it has been for a couple years. And this is for a couple reasons. But I think one of the biggest reasons is that there are so many play cafe and indoor playground business owner content creators. So they're doing day in the life videos, they're doing profit breakdowns, they're doing open with me, close with me. And this is no knock to them. Most of them are honestly my close friends. A lot of them are my clients. This is absolutely no negativity to them. I subscribe to them. I watch them. I think they're great. And I think so many of them are very transparent about the reality of this industry. But just the nature of watching somebody do this day in and day out, it kind of makes a consumer look at this industry. Again, even if the creator is being as transparent as possible, it often makes people look at this industry through rose-colored glasses. Kind of like, oh, well, if all of these people are doing it, if she can do it, I can do it. And while that may be the case, while you absolutely may be able to do it, I also want to kind of remove those rose-colored glasses from you for a minute and talk to you a little bit about the reality of what this industry is, especially in 2025. Because again, we're not in 2020, 2015 anymore. You can't just rent a space, do very minimal build out, buy a couple toys from Amazon, maybe one playhouse, and expect to charge admission and expect to charge a premium price for parties. Expect to make a living off of that because there is a lot more competition out there. And I'm not just talking locally. Now we have access to Instagram Reels, we have access to TikTok, we have bigger access to YouTube, and there are so many more of these creators out there than they were in 2015. So now parents are not only comparing their play spaces locally against what else is available locally, they're comparing their experience against what they see across the country, even across the world. And it's causing these heightened expectations for parents, which really causes increased expectations on us as business owners. And I want to talk a little bit about what that means. Because again, in 2015, I'm not saying that you could just open with a couple $1,000s and become rich. That's not what I'm saying at all. However, people definitely have higher expectations now, and they are not going to pay a premium price for a space that was made with minimal investment. Now, I always like to say that you kind of get out of this business what you put into it, but that is a generalization. I'm not saying the more that you invest, the more that you make. However, I spend so much time looking at business plans where people are expecting to invest $150,000, $200,000, and I'm looking at their monthly income statements, what they're projecting, and they're expecting to make $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 per month. And immediately, without looking at anything else in their business plan, I know that's not realistic. I know that either the volume is off. So what I mean by that is their startup costs are completely off because they're underestimating their equipment spend, their build out spend, their machinery spend, definitely their payroll spend once we start getting into monthly expenses as well. And I know that either they're overestimating their volume or they're overestimating what people are willing to pay for their specific space. So that's what I see a lot. And I know I made a video about this a couple months ago, but I really feel like it needs repeating because I'm still getting a lot of these business plans in my inbox. And it's really disheartening because one of the reasons I love doing what I do is that so many people who enter this industry have such a big heart. They do this because they want to better their community. They want to better their family. They want to provide for their family. They want to have their kiddos alongside them while they work. And I know I've already made a couple of videos de-influencing you from just the sheer act of working alongside your children, or at least expecting that to be basically your sole team, or the majority of your team is you and your family working alongside your children. Hopefully I've already de-influenced you against that. Anyways, I'm not going to get too much of a tangent here, but again, when I see these business plans, it's really disheartening because I know their intentions are pure or when they're coming up with these numbers. So when they're coming up with $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a month in income, and I'm talking about open play memberships, parties, classes, events, right? They have these big dreams of having all of these different revenue streams. However, they're getting these numbers from facilities that are $1 million, $2 million, $3 million facilities that are much bigger, that had a lot more money and resources poured into them. Maybe they're owned by private equity, or maybe they're owned by an entire board of investors who had play experts and interior designers, and they invested in the best of the best equipment. They have all the best accessibility and inclusivity features. They have a huge marketing budget behind them. And so they're coming up with these numbers based on a business that is completely unlike theirs in terms of the initial investment, the monthly investment in the team, in the maintenance, in the rent, right? Because a lot of times they're getting their numbers from these spaces that are much bigger, whereas maybe their space that they're looking to rent is only 2,500 square feet, but they're looking at these facilities that are 10 times the size and thinking they can do that same volume, or thinking they can charge similar prices to a facility that, again, $1 million was poured into. And this is not me saying that you cannot open this business on a small amount of money. You absolutely can. And honestly, that is the scary part, especially if you are in a saturated market. Now, if you are in a rural market and there's nobody else around and the rent is dirt cheap and you're able to open on a very small amount of money, and you're okay with charging a small amount of money because that's what your rural area can support. You can't rely on that volume of customers, but you can rely on getting 50 to 100 recurring members, booking enough parties. If you're in a rural area, or you're in an area where, again, rent, the cost of labor, things like that are very, very inexpensive, and there's not a lot else in your area, go for it. Open very inexpensively. But what I'm seeing is a lot of people are looking to open with minimal investment in already saturated markets. And then they're coming to me wondering, well, why aren't I performing as well as my competitors? Why am I not pulling in $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a month? And then I have to go back and say, well, you only invested $250,000 in your space. And I'm not saying that's a little amount of money. I understand that's a huge amount of money. That's what I invested in my space 10 years ago. Obviously, that would look a little bit different in 2025 dollars. But it's heartbreaking to me because, again, this industry is becoming so saturated and it's taking a lot more to stand out. It's taking a lot more to command people's hard-earned money. So again, I'll get on the phone with these clients and they're wondering why they're not pulling in this money. They're doing all the things. They're doing Facebook ads. They're listening to me about blogging, email marketing. They're creating all this content. They're going viral, yet they can't pay their bills. They can't pay themselves. And when you think about a marketing funnel, right, you start at the top of the funnel, awareness, people finding you on Instagram, people finding you on TikTok, things like that. And then, maybe they visit your website. Maybe you haven't invested a lot in your website, or maybe you did it yourself, or maybe you have a very bare bones booking system, or maybe you have invested in a booking system, but again, your space just isn't commanding the prices and it can't justify the prices that you're hoping to charge. So you can be doing all of the right things when it comes to marketing and still not make even close to what you need to make. Because again, the very bottom of the funnel, your actual product, your space, the parties that you're doing, again, are not enough to justify the price that you're hoping to charge. Whether it's because you're in a saturated area, whether it's because you don't stand out enough against your competitors, you didn't invest enough in your space, whether you didn't set your business up the correct way from the start, maybe your systems are a little off kilter, maybe you're running the business yourself and wearing all of the hats. There are so many factors that can go into it. But again, because people typically have such great hearts going into this business, I want to make sure, like I said earlier, you're going into this business with eyes wide open and you're understanding that it takes more now than it ever has to make an impact, to carve out a share of the pie, of the market share, of the family entertainment market share in your area, especially if you are in a saturated market. Now, I don't want to sound too much like Meghan Markle because I don't know if you listened to that podcast episode, but she talked a lot about, the power of yet. And she tells her kids, you can't ride your bike yet. But I do say that a lot to my clients on one-on-one calls. People who say, I can only invest $100,000, or I don't have access to enough money and resources, or man, the rents in my area are just too high. I tell them, maybe now isn't the right time to open a play space for you financially, personally. Maybe they're looking to grow their family. Or often people will come to me and say, my entire financial future or my family's ability to eat depends on the success of this business. Maybe they got laid off. Maybe their spouse got laid off. A lot of people come to me saying this is their last effort. This is what they need in order to put a roof over their family's heads. And again, to those people, I say, please, there are much easier, less expensive, less risky ways to make money. This might be the industry for you, but it certainly is not the time if that's the position where you're at. So to those people who maybe it's not a good time financially, maybe it's not a good time personally, maybe they just don't have enough to create a grand enough space to create a space in the market for themselves, I give them action steps, right? There are so many easier, like I said, less expensive ways to make money, like user-generated content for other businesses. You can do social media for other businesses. You can do balloon art. All of these things, all of these side businesses, you're going to learn the skills that you're going to eventually apply to your own business anyways. And you will be much better off having learned these skills on another business's dime, right? You might as well get paid to learn these skills. And both of those businesses, social media, content creation, balloon art, even mobile soft play, things like that, they don't take a huge startup amount. Soft play is a little bit more, but it's certainly not as much as opening a full brick and mortar indoor playground with a full kitchen and a full cafe, because again, that's what it takes to compete these days. A lot of technology. If you don't have that, again, there are much easier ways to make money. I would start with that. I would grow your customer list. I have an entire video about how to do kind of the minimum viable product approach, but I'm getting kind of off track here. Again, if you are in the daydreaming phase and it just seems like, wow, rents are really high in my area, or I barely have enough to, do the build out. I'm not going to have enough to do a full gross motor structure or do an entire village. Or, I'm really only going to be able to do imaginative play. I'm telling you, now is not your time, but that doesn't mean it will never be your time. Businesses are going to close. Trust me. A lot of people in this industry specifically, but in all industries, are on hard times because a lot of people went into this business not having a mentor, not having an advisor. And I'm not saying that you need to purchase my course or invest in my consulting to be successful. However, I do recommend finding a consultant, finding a mentor, finding a program, because this industry is so highly nuanced and it takes such a specialized set of knowledge and such a special set of skills. And if you're in my program, if you're open, I'm sure you're nodding your head in agreement. It is absolutely shocking how specific this industry is and how counterintuitive this industry is. And it's so funny at Playmakers Live, I'm not going to call her out specifically, but you know who you are. One of my clients we had 10 phone calls before she opened. She stood up, she has been open for 7 months, and she said, I really have nothing to add to this conversation. I just have to say, Michelle, you were right about everything. And your husband was right about everything because he designed her website. And I wish I would have listened to you. I'm shocked. She has an advanced degree. She's extremely smart. She's brilliant. But again, this industry is counterintuitive. It's not enough to have business knowledge. It's not enough to be brilliant. It's not enough to just have money. You need a combination of resources, know-how, and experience. So again, a lot of people entered this business without the right experience, without the right resources. Businesses are going to close. Commercial vacancies are going to start popping up. So there are going to be opportunities, but if you're feeling a little defeated, if you feel like you don't have the resources, I promise the time will come, but you don't want to rush into this industry, especially if you are in a saturated market. I have met with so many owners who feel like they opened too fast, who wish they would have waited, who wish they would have maybe doubled their savings so that they could have created a better space so they could charge higher prices so that they wouldn't have to worry so much about competition. I have never once met an owner that says they waited too long or that they wish they would have opened sooner. And I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of owners. So if that says anything to you, I think to me that is very impactful. And a lot of people ask me, why I don't open another space. And a lot of people say, why do you still consult in this industry if you're not even an owner? Again, trust me, the amount of time and energy I pour into my programs, into my consulting, I hire lawyers, I hire CPAs, I hire all sorts of experts to supplement my own knowledge, even though I have a master's in economics and finance and I have experience in this industry. I don't know it all. And I'm telling you, I would not have been able to do everything that I do for other owners if I still own my own space. And plus, in my local area, there are at least 12 indoor playground/play cafes that I can think of. A lot of them are my clients. Like, for example, Casey at Village Play in East Aurora, shout out. We're having my daughter's birthday there in a couple months. I'm so excited. She's right by my new house. And I don't want to open in a saturated area. It makes no business sense. And I'm not going to take money out of the pockets of the clients that I helped to open. So again, even I know when a particular area is not ripe for opening a new business. So I know this was a long ramble. I know this wasn't structured. I know this wasn't step by step, but again, I've been having a lot of clients struggling lately, and a lot of it's because they underinvested in their space and their costs are too high. And this creates an extremely stressful life for them. So because they are barely scraping by every month, they're not paying themselves. Their marriages are falling apart. They're thinking about declaring bankruptcy. They are really struggling, and it absolutely breaks my heart. A lot of it has to do with factors that are out of their control, like competitors that opened up that they had no idea would open up. This market boom that a lot of us didn't anticipate. I anticipated it, but a lot of us haven't been, had our finger on the pulse of the play cafe industry like I do, because again, this is now my full-time job. So I know this was a ramble, but I really just had to get this out there. So if you are thinking of opening, but you don't have the resources, if that play structure that you want is just out of reach, if you can't make your space accessible or inclusive enough, if you can't go big enough to align with your vision, if you find yourself straying too far from your original vision, from what you really desire your space to be, and from what your market demands, and especially if you are in an already saturated market, I would encourage you to wait. And I know it's probably shocking to hear me say this because my livelihood depends on people opening play cafes, but I promise you, I have good intentions. I'm here because I want you to succeed and I care about your success. I ran into a couple people in the hallway at the Playmakers conference and they were newer to my content. And they were shocked when I said, "Oh, I have never once said in my content, in my podcast, on my YouTube channel, you should open a play cafe. A play cafe is great. A play cafe is, a get rich quick business idea. It's extremely profitable." I never say those things. And there's a reason that I'm not on TikTok. I tried posting on TikTok a couple times, but it just didn't feel good because I don't want to contribute, honestly, to the play cafe trend. However, if people are dead set on opening an indoor playground, play cafe, and it is their life's mission, it is their biggest goal, I want to help them. That's why I focus on search engine optimization. It's why I focus on YouTube, because only the people who are searching for play cafe content find me. So you have to already have that idea, that seed planted in order to find my content. And that's how I intend it. I actually do not want to contribute to this trend because it takes away from your success. It takes away from my other client success. And I never want this industry to get so saturated where it starts becoming, overly competitive instead of collaborative. And there are some owners out there that are just really nasty. I've seen more litigation happen in the last 24 months than I ever have in my decade in this industry. It is getting really tough out there. So again, I know this was kind of a rant, this was kind of a ramble, but I really needed to just get this out there because again, I'm spending so much of my time consulting on businesses that I can't help because they can't change their lease. They can't completely redesign their space. They're doing everything they can marketing wise, but if their end product can't deliver on what their area expects or commands based on competition, there's only so much they can do, and there's certainly only so much I can do. So again, if you are still in the daydreaming phase, I hope this is your message to make sure you're investing in a mentor, whether it's me or someone else, that you have enough resources to go into this and create a space that is competition proof, that is able to charge the prices that you need to, not just to break even, but also to pay yourself so that your business contributes to your family's fortune and doesn't take away from it, so that it is the business of your dreams and isn't a compromised, whittled down version of what you were once pinning on your Pinterest board. And I just hope you understand how stressful your life will be, how strained your relationships will become if you create a business that scrapes by, that can't charge the prices that you want to charge, that isn't what people want to see in your area. So if you have any questions, I did just open up my one-on-one consulting spots. I sell Play Cafe Academy year round. I don't do any sort of launching or cart open, cart close because I want it to always be there when you need it. So I will link my one-on-one information. I will link Play Cafe Academy and Playmaker Society information below. But again, thank you so much for listening. If you're still here, I really appreciate it. If you have any topics you want me to cover, I am, like I said, going to get back to my more step-by-step structured content on my podcast. I'm going to get back to my more conversational stuff here on YouTube. But if there is anything you want to see, please comment below. And if this style of video was helpful, just me kind of spilling my thoughts in a real, honest, unfiltered, kind of unedited way, please let me know, because I have so much to say about this industry, especially coming off of Playmaker Society Live. I am just boiling over with tips, with trends I've been seeing, with things I want to say to current owners, prospective owners. So let me know. But for now, I hope you have an amazing day and I will see you soon. Bye for now.